and they are currently out in Arizona, and I'm going to bring some really good updates around what's going on in the current environment. So thank you. My name is Ben from the Church of the Sacred Synthesis, and yeah, we're going to get started. We're going to roll right in. So thanks for joining me today. And yeah, so going forward, based around what you've shared with me just in the notes, and just reading up on the environment, it seems that it's a little dry out there this year. So I'd love to get some updates around what that's looking like for you and what you're seeing on the ground.
Yeah, sure. I'll go first, and then Joe's got probably lots of experience to talk about the monsoon. Is that yeah, this year uh, really altogether, I think it's been about on average 2.5 inches. So far, it's everyone's waiting for the monsoon to have its final kick in. It's really too late at this point for significant Sonoran desert toad mating. Yet looks like there's some rain coming this Thursday, a little bit into the weekend, where we could get half an inch of rain that could make a difference on the ground and yeah, bring the toads out. But that's kind of what's up.
So has it been, as you say, that hasn't rained since the first rain? It's been just dry.
We had a rain like the July 2nd when the monsoon kicked off, about a quarter of an inch, and then I think about 2 weeks later, that's when we got the biggest rain from about an inch and a half to 2.5 inches, sort of in the area, and varied depending on where you were. And since then, there just hasn't been another big rain event. It might be like a quarter of an inch or less, but not enough to yeah, really make a huge difference.
Wow, wow. Yeah, well, I guess I'll swing over to you, Joe, because you have the most experience in that in the environment down there. Is this something that is you've seen before, or is this something that is abnormal?
Yeah, it just seems like the weather's slowly changing over the last couple of years. So, it's kind of hard to tell if it's just a fluctuation or if there's a legitimate climate change type event where the weather's shifting. But this year for sure, it's been coming in later and later. And this year it just seems like it's been scattered. There's a bunch of pressure and winds coming in from the west, and it's kind of fragmented it. So some of the monsoon rains are actually showing up, but they're like way east of the toad's habitat.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So are you
I jump in.
seeing?
No,
Go
go ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. I
Yeah, I
was
was
just
just
gonna
gonna.
say that. Yeah, you keep it free flowing. For sure, and me coming out here, like the spade foot is the sound of the Sonoran Desert. When there's enough rain and there's mating action going on, and I've heard that once the whole time. So usually,
I see.
you're out here, Ben. You've been here before.
Yeah.
There's choruses of spade foots during the
Hmm.
monsoon, and that just hasn't happened yet.
So it has, based around both of your experience, is there the same amount of toads? Are you seeing toad activity? Is there just not there's just not water for them to lay eggs in, or are there less is there less activity all across the board?
So there's less activity across the board. They still come out. Toads will act different around permanent bodies of water. So there are toads coming out that are around known sources of water for them. It's just when the monsoon comes that kind of signals all the mating stuff. Then
I see.
everybody comes out. Yeah,
Got it.
but it's kind of when it's dry out, it's hard to see them on the ground. You're not going to see them as much, and it's kind of like you have to wait for the rain to fall locally for them to even come out to feed or to cool themselves off or whatever. They're out there. It's just a lot more difficult to find them when yeah, when there's hardly any water out there.
I see. Okay. And so when there are pools and they lay eggs, how long typically does it take for the eggs to turn to tadpoles, and then is the water remaining there long enough for for the tadpoles to turn into toadlets?
Yeah, I'll just go first because I got here when the right before the monsoon started, and it's really hard. There's not a lot of data, hard data, on their metamorphosis, the cycle, the lengths, and yet I saw a breeding pair in the pool when that happened, and then 4 weeks later, there were toadlets coming out of the water. So it seems like at a minimum, conditions are right as far as the water depth, temperature, algae in there to feed them. Not too many predators around. That as short as 4 weeks, maybe as long as 6 to 8 weeks. Could be a possible range for them to go from mating, eggs, tadpoles, toadlets, where they can live on land.
Got it. Yeah, yeah. I'll pivot to a topic that we discussed when I last spoke with you around um, the bullfrogs, and not specifically around that, but just around the conservation. And so, are there any efforts out in the desert to for conservation of these guys, to increase population, hatcheries, et cetera, that you're aware of, or is it more like guerrilla style conservation?
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
as far as what I'm
go ahead,
aware
Ben.
of in the United States, there aren't too many sanctuaries. There may be one or two. I'm not aware of them. Yeah, so any conservation efforts are pretty much guerrilla style at this point.
Okay,
In Mexico, I can't speak to what's going on down there, but I'm sure there
sure.
are people studying it and whatnot. Going out toting, I've run into people doing the studies on bats and other types of animals. I'm sure there are local colleges and stuff like that who come down and do studies, but I'm not aware of them.
Yeah, and Ben, the Tucson Herpetological Society, which I'm a member of, just gave, well, they took the applications for grants. I think $2,500 each for two different grants to study the northern desert toad. But anybody who's involved in any of that kind of stuff knows that's really nothing. That's that's a
Right.
drop in the bucket. And so probably the biggest thing is that one has to be out there living with them, understanding them, you know, looking at their life cycle to have any hope of being able to do conservation. Yeah, so there's not really any direct activities we're aware of. It's more people doing some studying, and yeah, that's really the opportunity is to yeah, just really start helping them. And I mean, I think I'd say Joe probably has lots of ideas. I think the more one studies the sanctuary model, it just shows its limitations because you can only bring so many toads into one area. They don't want to be super close to each other. They want to have enough space for their territories. So yeah, more of a guerrilla approach called where did they live before that they don't live now, and how can we help reestablish them in those kind of places. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And you know leveraging positively more altered parts of the land through human interaction, or where that includes historic water accumulation, but maybe they've modified it, right? And so yeah, being able to go and yeah, help reestablish their more ancestral locations that they've for whatever reasons been pushed out of, the habitat, the destruction, degradation, that kind of stuff.
So if one would desire to practice some conservation, what can they do to help these guys and gals can help these toads in this state? Is there techniques, methods that you've seen, that you've used, that you know of, that the individuals who love these animals can help them? Yeah. And
Yeah, yeah. So there's a couple of different routes. Somebody could go off and start building breeding pools or breeding ponds for them. You can collect tadpoles and try raising them up as much as possible. That's kind of what I'm getting into. I don't have a sanctuary or anything like that. This year is the first year I've got a bunch of tadpoles and I'm working on raising them up. I'm not going to take them with me, but I can go back and take the froglets or the toadlets and reseed places that are kind of hurting or fortify areas where they're already established. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm essentially increasing the buffer, right? They lay about 8,000 eggs,
Wow.
and only a couple of toads are gonna make it out of that entire 8,000. So if I show up and I grab 200-300 tadpoles and I raise them up to a certain point, their survivability goes up.
Sure.
So they're not all dying in the pond, or like you see these little ponds, and they're evaporating, and you just see hundreds of little toadlets in there, and they're just going to die.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Wow.
Ben, you're always asking us a great question, talking about stressors, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how that affects, both negative and positive stressors. So Joe's been sharing with me, what he's been learning about the toads is if you're saving them, you still can't. If you treat them with too much in the way of kid gloves, they don't develop both as fast and as healthy. So the right amount, the right particular stressors can really both uh, increase their metamorphosis rate and actually increase their survivability. So I'm sure Joe would love to share some of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Please.
just trying to raise the tadpoles, I'm like trying to get them to hurry up and become toadlets. They're much
Yeah.
they're much more robust as toadlets. It looks like they're
Sure.
more intelligent. They can do more things. And
So would having less water access or shallower water create that genetic trigger
you got
essentially?
it. You got it. So
Yeah.
you can lower the amount of water. You can increase the heat of the water. So there's less oxygen being held by the water.
Yep.
You can introduce chemical irritants. You
I
can
see.
introduce water that's got like a predator smell in it. Like I've
Okay.
taken water from a pond where there's a bunch of fish growing in it, and taken some of that water and put it in the pool. Also overpopulating them, so continuing to add more and more tadpoles, they're going to naturally increase metamorphosis.
I see. Interesting. Interesting. Wow, those are great techniques. So, you know, have you seen it? And so now, are you seeing them fully make it? I know that's always been like sort of the rub here is like it's been difficult to bring tadpoles from tadpole all the way up to toad, right? There seems to
Yeah.
be some difficulty in that transition. So, are you seeing a success rate of any significant level?
Okay, so this is kind of where the model of how I'm doing it is, looking at the sanctuary model is actually a little bit better in this regard. So ideally, if you're going to take a tadpole and raise it up so you can re-release it, you want it to get to about 2 inches long, which is about a year's worth of growth.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
coming down for a couple of months. So the
Sure.
most I can do is kind of buffer that zone from where the tadpoles are formed, and to try to get them to the toadlet phase as fast as possible without over rushing it. Because if you do it too fast, they're going to come out weak, and their survivability goes down.
Sure. Wow.
So
So, yeah. Sorry. Continue.
yeah. No, so what I'm looking into now is making like little hibernation boxes and little homes for them to give them that much more protection even after I'm gone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what I was gonna ask next. So, in the wild, these toads, they would be hatched 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks after their. How long does it take for them from egg to hatch? Let's
Yeah.
go there.
Maybe days. Yeah.
Okay. So arguably they have 2 to 3 months of life cycle before they need to go back and hibernate. Is that accurate in the wild? These guys are only maybe an inch when they're going into hibernation for the first time, or are they
Uh,
larger than this?
yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully I can get them bigger than this.
Well,
So
no, I mean in the wild. I'm
yeah,
just contrasting to the wild. So because we talked about like two survive out of 8,000. So if we can create
yeah,
protections for these, right? Because these may be they're going into hibernation as tiny little
yeah,
guys and they're getting eaten or whatever's happening to them.
yeah. An inch at most.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, the
Okay.
toilets are really small.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in. It's all monsoon dependent. If the monsoon starts early, it's heavy, then they mate early, and then potentially they have a chance, if they make it, to be bigger, to be, I've seen them, yeah, you know, gosh, measure, yeah, an inch and a half to 2 inches on the biggest side is anything I've ever seen. So, excuse me, because it's going to take 2 inches for a year, like a little over an inch. But the point is they're in that race to get underground. So once they're
Sure.
underground, they're not eating and growing until they come back out the next year. So
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen some little guys towards the end of the season, and historically, and they're maybe an inch, inch and a half. So yeah, really interesting. Um, yeah. So you speak of the boxes to hibernate in. Now, would they have the capacity to I don't know, climb out or dig out of them at some point, or this is something that's more temporary? Can you describe this? So just I'd love my end goal is like sharing the wisdom with people so they can come and do these things. If this is something that I mean, I believe in this very really deeply, like helping these toads. If there's human effects that are causing them to have uh, less survivability, like bullfrog, and environmental factors like developments, it would be wise for us to be sharing wisdom to enable them to be growing, to increase the populations, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're comfortable sharing that, I'd love to hear anything you're willing to share.
I'll be completely honest with you. This is just what I'm digging into at this point right now.
Okay.
So I came down this season and I got started with the toadlets, and it's just been kind of, or the tadpoles. We got them tadpoles, toadlets. So I've just been just kind of rushing to figure this, that, and the other thing out. This is my first year
Fair
doing
enough.
this, so yeah.
yeah. Yeah, Joe he has to name them, Stinky, Slimy, Speedy, yeah, yeah. So uh, I just want to say, like, we're learning so much about, like, their habitat.
Yeah.
Uh, last night, and I posted it on social. We saw the morning glory, seeds that had hatched quite a bit ago, and they're growing way up in the mesquite trees, and the leaves are in some cases that big. And so these toads, their two primary things that they eat are the ambrosia beetle and these leafcutter ants. And the leafcutter ants, they use the fungus, right? And so they're eating a fungus in some cases that's growing on a morning glory leaf that contains LSA, right?
Hmm.
Lysergic acid amide. And yeah, I was joking with Joe the other night. I said, "Man, everyone in nature is getting high, but us. So, like, we've got all these rules we got to follow that we've come up with ourselves to prohibit ourselves, right, from messing with it." But these, the Sonoran desert toad, besides eating the leafcutter and the ambrosia beetle, this is a scientifically reviewed study. I shared it with you the other day,
Hmm.
where they also eat harvester ants. Okay, harvester ants are the most potent venom in the insect kingdom,
Wow.
on par with some cobras. So and there's at least 20 different known Native American tribes, especially around California, that they have a historical use of eating those same said ants for, yeah, what they say in the papers, hallucinogenic properties. So
Sure.
yeah, it's just super wild that everyone's using these chemical defenses, attacking things, getting high on it. And there's only three insects in the world that do fungal farming: the leafcutter, the ambrosia beetle, and then termites. So
Okay.
the fact that the toad is eating these things, right? We think about toadstools and all that. It's really pretty wild. And so the
Sure.
toads themselves, uh, besides being semi-aquatic and having to live outside of water and use these medicines in their skin to kill stuff, they're also eating all these fungus that who knows what's in them. And they're able to eat scorpions that have venom. They're able to eat harvester ants that have be able to have venom. So there's a lot of alchemy going on out there in nature.
So let me ask you, this is something that we had chatted about previous to the season beginning, around the toads, and once they're milked, how quickly they rejuvenate their exudate. And have you done any analysis around that timeline? I've heard as fast as an hour or a day or a month or a whole season. So I mean, it's myriad of different perspectives.
I'll jump in. I'm sure Joe's got lots of thoughts. I'll just say this: I think at this point those glands are like camelbacks because they're reservoirs. They've already got the 5-MeO in their skin, all over their skin, because they're using it to regulate moisture and to be antibacterial, antiviral. So they, the idea that it's a primary defense, I just I don't see that at all because it's it wouldn't go to work fast enough to really make a difference, But yeah, I'm sure Joe's got lots of thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I know. As far as I've never grown them indoors or collected the medicine from an indoor toad. My understanding is that usually somebody should wait a good 2 months in between milking them. I would guess even longer. Um all toads that have an excretion that they create bufotenin, and it looks like that enzyme that was it 5-methyl transferase or whatever. There's a certain amount of time that needs to happen. So while they may still be creating a secretion, it's going to be most primarily bufotenin. It's going to be weaker. It's not going to feel like 5 typically feels if you take it uh, too soon. That the enzyme needs some time for action. I'm assuming when they go into sleep, when they do their hibernation, that that's when the medicine kind of matures. It shifts over from bufotenin to 5-MeO. Mammals do the same thing. All mammalian brains will do the
Hmm.
same.
Yep, yep.
I'll ask a question, Joe. Do you think that if the toads are stressed, okay, there's the mythology that says misunderstands and compares Sonoran desert toads to the combo, right, frog, and the combo frog does have to have some kind of stress to have the exudate, but the Sonoran desert toad doesn't need to do that. Do you think? Do you think, or do you have ideas on the concentration of those medicines while they're out during the monsoon, separate from when they're underground hibernating? Uh, if someone is, let's say, stressing the toads during the process of milking them, do you think that could change the or affect the venom composition?
Uh, this is just my own personal half-baked opinion. Is that I can't see that. I could see if the animal lived in stress, that would affect its metabolism and would probably have an effect on what type of what's the constituent of the exudate. But as far as what's happening while you're handling the toad, if we're looking at this like it's a storage, like it's storing all those chemicals, I can't see something that would normally take a couple of months perhaps to transfer from bufotenin to 5-MeO or in the other direction, that would all of a sudden become a quick process just because they're being handled. you know I'm a stickler for short handling times of the animals when you're milking them, strictly just for the safety of the animal. uh, After a certain point, they have a secondary stress response where they'll let go of they'll pee on you essentially, and they have done studies on those toads after they release the liquid, after they pee on you, their immune system is hampered. Also, people collecting at the end of the season, those they need to hydrate, and if you pick that animal up and you stress it and it pees out all its water, it may go underground into hibernation, and it could be 1, 2, 3, even 4 years late until the rains hit the specific spot to pull the animal out, and it could be in serious trouble if it goes into its hibernation dehydrated.
Oh wow. So leading to the next. So these animals can hibernate, you think, for 2 to 3 years, because
Uh,
is the rain spotty in those regions? Sometimes places don't get rain for extended periods of time.
yeah, yeah. It's like
Wow.
some of the toads. So, like I said, the toads will act different around permanent bodies of water. If
Right.
they're very close to the water, their behavior is different. But if they're at a distance and they're waiting on the monsoons to call them up, yeah, you're not going to see them.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, there may be years where like there's certain areas where I've gone where like it was prolific the first couple of years, and then I don't see anything for 2 3 years, and then all of a sudden the monsoons directly pass over. It's like there needs to be a certain amount of water, like a half inch to an inch, and then all of a sudden they come out, the puddles are there, and they're doing their their monsoon behavior.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah. But time for laying eggs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, That's basically what they're waiting for, right? Because they don't necessarily need water to live, right? Because they can absorb it sort of through the soil down in the earth, right? It's moisture, but they need water to mate and to make babies.
Yeah, they need the extra water and everything for that, but they do need a certain amount of water for themselves under the water. They underground, they I'm sure there's very their metabolism slows way down.
Yeah,
So there's a very small need of water. I can't imagine they would last longer than a handful of years. If the weather doesn't pull them out,
sure.
this is part of where their habitat slowly changes as the weather moves.
Yes, and you know, I think you shared previously that they're previously only thought to be in the Sonoran Desert, but now maybe they are extending into the Chihuahua Desert and other areas around. Is this due to habitat? They're actually moving, or is this where they have always been? And we're just sort of discovering them there.
I'm quite sure this is about where they've always been.
Okay,
In order for these animals to actually move, more than likely this is going to have to there's going to have to be some human intervention there.
got it.
They're the way the migration of these animals is going to be so much slower than any climate change that we
Sure.
could notice within our lifetime.
Yeah, they don't go very far, right?
No, no.
100 feet or something from their
Uh,
dens.
up to a third of a mile,
Wow, and
actually.
then they can make their way home. So they have a compass, an internal compass to.
Yeah, yeah. It
Wow.
appears it appears to be magnetic because
Yeah.
you take a male out of a male who is mated. So a male will mate in only one place. Technically, the first place that they lose their virginity in there, they will always be magnetically attracted to. So people who take these animals out of the wild, put them up in their home, they'll notice that there's that natural burrowing instinct that they have, and the toad will continually try to dig its way in the same direction as its first breeding parent.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow, that's incredible.
yeah.
Very interesting. Now, speaking of habitats and where they live, is what's your temp on their ability to live in other regions? If say they were moved, because there's other toads that live, let's say in Austin, Texas, the Bufo houstonensis, or other regions where the climate could be very hospitable to these toads. Could they survive there, or do they need that desert environment?
Yeah, these are very sensitive animals. I've got a friend who's essentially a herpetologist, and he's had some issues. He's done a very good. Granted, he didn't have the best facility, but this he was holding them, along the East Coast somewhere, and the weather dipped down just a little bit. They had a weather controlled environment, but just a little draft in it for like a couple of days, and they died out. They're very
Wow.
sensitive animals, so if you can recreate their environment, they're going to be all right. But
So
you
one would
know,
need like a greenhouse or some other climate controlled, as you're saying,
yeah,
setup. Got it. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, some kind of permanent, support through the body of water, and then making sure
Sure.
it's really about feeding them, and then the right size and the right food, and then allowing them to have a place to burrow into. That's something Joe's been studying and getting more into exactly is how do you create these hibernation boxes, and they've just got so many impacts to their environment. This is kind of like a fun little story, whatever. The other night we were out. There's tons of BLM land out here in Arizona and everything in the Sonoran Desert, and so people are out there shooting weapons. Right? I definitely saw two guys that were veterans out there. I could just tell they had their automatic weapons,
Okay.
on the down low. But I was totally thinking about you, Ben, because so we saw some people, and then we saw headlamps, and we saw buckets, and Joe's like, we're like, buckets are no good. If we thought that maybe they were, toting with buckets, and then we encountered them a little bit later, and they were collecting brass. They were collecting,
Oh.
the shell
Hmm.
casings from weapons, and I was totally thinking about you in Korea. How I remember people would tell me Cobra pilots would be out there on the range, right? And they would be shooting their armament, and the people would be down on the ground, Koreans, like with baskets, catching,
Oh, fetching the brass. Yeah.
yeah, catching the brass. So that's what these guys were doing. Like you think about getting cans, they were
Mm.
collecting brass. And I said something like, you guys aren't worried about exploding or unexploded ordnance, and they're like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Yeah, rounds that haven't gone off." But there's toads in those same set environments, and there's
Sure.
in those studies that show what the toads eat. They found bullet casings, brass in the Sonoran Desert toad's stomach.
Hmm.
So these guys are amazingly hardcore, and like Joe's saying, though, really when they're small, that's the key is increasing that survivability, so that they're healthy enough they can deal with casings and trash and all that kind of other stuff. But yeah, so that was my my
Oh,
funny
wow.
story.
All right. Well.
Well, I would say too,
Well,
like so, some of the things we notice, like this, lots of small ants that are key for the toadlets. They need those small ants to be able to fit them in their mouths. The other things they might be able to eat in a more urban or controlled environment, wingless fruit flies or something like that. That's just not that just doesn't happen naturally out in the desert.
right.
And yeah, so oh yeah, sorry. So say like cow manure. So there's ranches, and ranches have cow manure, and cow manure is a great enhancement for food source for the ants. That's all.
Sure.
And so these permanent water sources can be enhancements as well. Yet, if you do them down in the arterial, places that they live historically, you might have to deal with bullfrogs that get introduced. So
Mm.
I'm just saying, there's this definite, human animal interplay, and
Sure.
that's the kind of stuff that Joe's figuring out is like, how do we enhance where they already live, and if they're been extirpated from those areas that they originally lived in, what can we do to restore and enhance those areas? So
Yeah. And yeah, as you're sharing those, so like permanent pools of water, the ability to have water that is stable, right? Is there? I mean, obviously, there, from my knowledge, there the populations are greater around parks and golf courses, other places that have sprinklers or man-made water structures. So this is something that yeah, can be augmented out in the wild as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, Joe. Well, I mean,
Oh
uh,
no.
yeah,
Yeah. I just. Yeah. I mean, these animals require water, but
Yeah.
yeah, as far as what specific bodies of water or whatever, yeah, keep that under wraps.
yeah, and just water by itself, that's not sufficient. If
Nah.
fertilizer runoffs going in there, if there's a golf course and they're using pesticides, that's not going to work. So
Yeah.
yeah, just because it's man-made and enhanced doesn't mean that that will necessarily bring the toads out.
Sure.
And you could tell some of the different places that you can tell when they're using pesticides. I mean, to me anyway, in more urban environments, because you just don't see the bugs and you just don't see the different kinds of toads, and you
Sure.
can,
Yeah.
yeah. So you just see, you don't see the whole ecosystem.
Especially in golf courses, they're using all sorts of chemicals, chemical fertilizers,
Yeah,
pesticides to keep their stuff nice and green and lush.
yeah. Peer-reviewed journal article studies about golf courses and the correlation to incidences of cancer. So people who live close to golf courses get cancer at a high rate because there's pesticides, and
Mm,
so that stuff affects the toads exactly in the same way.
got it. Got it. Well, on that note, yeah, is there any let's say anything we missed that you'd like to share that's anything on your heart, your mind that you'd like to speak to in this moment?
No. I appreciate the interview. Yeah, I appreciate what you guys are doing with your church very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Uh, it,
Likewise. Appreciate what you guys are doing out there and for the
totally.
toads and for well for all of humanity, right? We this is a really important time in existence, and there's a lot of charlatans, so to speak, that are posturing with synthetics and all these other aspects where they're using the perspective of these natural medicines and you know behind their keyboards, so to speak. Well, no, literally behind their keyboards, virtue signaling, as it were. So it's really amazing, and I'm really grateful that you guys are down there and getting real, on the ground information out to people. And the truth is very important to share. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just you know add something in, like the kind of things you learn are the things that they're co-evolving with nature in how they are living. And in the ponds, they live with the minnows, right? We know
Mm,
them as guppies or mosquito fish, and
yeah.
they're famous for eating mosquito larvae. I don't know about Joe, but I've never run into a mosquito in the southern Arizona Sonoran Desert, because they're eating them. And when those pools start to dry out and there's low oxygen levels, right? The minnows are the first things to die, and the minnows actually get eaten by the tadpoles. So the tadpoles are omnivorous while they're in tadpole phase, where they eat algae and other plant matter, but they can eat mosquito larvae. They can eat anything that's falling or swimming in the water, and yeah, being able to see how those other creatures are doing in their environment, you can tell if it's a good environment for the toads. So those are the things that I'm learning about, is what else lives in their environment, and can tell you the if it's a good environment for the toads.
Sweet. So, yeah, well, we're looking forward to the next talk, and that way we can get a little more information as you're discovering it. And our next conversation it'll be on Monday. We'll broadcast it on Wednesday, so that way we get some good spacing in between and some information. So, thank you both for joining me tonight, and yeah, thank all of you for coming and joining us and learning about what Ian and Joe is doing down in Arizona. I'd like to say thank you all to your commitment as members, and as such on Sunday, this upcoming Sunday, we have our Jaguar Light Wand ceremony. So anyone who would like to attend, there's a link in the signature of this that you can join and participate. And yeah, we'd love to have you. And then just tune into the calendar for upcoming events and all the goodness and more to unfold as we go forward. So thank you so much, everyone, and we love you.